Hey everybody, this is your favorite girl Courtney, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Keep It Connected. This is actually episode 2, and October is another awareness month, and domestic violence is a topic that we will discuss tonight. As many of you know, domestic violence is a very important awareness, and I think a lot of attention is continued to bring to the topic, but there's never too much information that you can learn from it. You can share with your family, your friends, or you yourself may be dealing with some type of domestic violence in your life that you can use this information to kind of help you get into a better place, a better mindset, but most involved, get some help. So I just want to give you a little background on domestic violence, and then my good friend Bernita will be here on tonight to give you some information on what domestic violence means to her, give you her testimony as well as her business that she has formed with domestic violence. So domestic violence, the information that I got on it was first known or an expression in the year of 1973. So domestic violence has been around for quite some time now, and I honestly can say that I really didn't think of it as a broad perspective. I only thought of it as one thing, which was physical abuse. Um, Not just saying that I didn't do my research, but a lot of times it's only by what you know and hear is what you go by. And it's always good to do research so you can kind of get a better meaning of what something means. And I must say, with researching domestic violence and prior speaking with Bernita before doing this podcast, what she explained to me, I got a lot of information on, and it was very helpful and some insight on what domestic violence is. So it's been around for some time, but like I said, October is a month for the awareness. So I thought, why not have someone come in and give some information on it and help someone that you may know or yourself that's dealing with this. So, Miss Renita, I'm going to turn it over to you. Just give us some information on what domestic violence means to you, and we will go from there.
So I'm going to start with the definition. Domestic violence is intimate partner violence, where it's a person that you have been involved with in a relationship, um, and they abuse you in. They can physically abuse you, but there's other forms of abuse
Mm-hmm.
that people don't talk about. And so, from doing the research and really getting involved heavy in domestic violence, even myself, I didn't even realize when I went through it
Wow.
that I was going through a form of abuse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we often talk about the physical abuse, but nobody really talks about the spiritual abuse, the sexual abuse, the mental,
Mm-hmm.
the psychological, the emotional. Um, and so those forms of abuse are not talked about. There's only two types of abuse, though,
Mm-hmm.
that a person can be charged, and
Mm.
that's physical and
Mm-hmm.
sexual.
That's correct. Wow. So right then and there, with all of those intakes that she gave us, she pointed out a lot of different points that I didn't even think about that was part of abuse. Those main two, physical and sexual, were the main ones that a lot of times are talked about, a lot of times are shown on TV, a lot of times are even talked about in songs. It's just different forms that you hear about it or see about it that's talked about, but when you really sit down and think about all the things that you've been through in life, some of us can really pinpoint in some way we have been through either one or two or more things of that domestic violence. So that is very good that you pointed out all of those points, because like I said, a lot of times we pinpoint on one thing and we just think that's it. So that's very good. So with that being said, how would you really see yourself in any of those forms, either with growing up or as an adult, that you would think, like thinking back now, wow, like I really saw myself in those situations and didn't even realize it?
So growing up, I was in a two-parent home, and my dad was a provider. He was all of those things. So I didn't see it. But when I got into a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
I was introduced to domestic violence where my um, partner at the time, he has seen it in his home. So
Mm.
things that he has seen, I didn't know anything about.
Correct.
I seen love, my parents working together, but in his home, he's seen the fighting, he's seen the beating of his mom,
Mm-hmm.
and so in his mind, if you're not doing what I told you to do,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I'm going to provide, but I also have control.
Mm. Wow. So with that being said, now that you look back and saw that that was a form of it, of course, and you didn't even realize it, just to stop you there, what are some of the signs, or what are some of the things that you could give to someone out there that may be dealing with just that first part that you explained, that they could seek help, or what could they possibly do to get out of that situation?
So we all heard of red flags. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's something about that person
Mm-hmm.
that just really like, oh. But as women, we're nurturers. We think that because it happened with her, it's not going to happen with me,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Correct.
So when the red flags, that's a sign to reevaluate the situation.
Mm-hmm.
If that person could go from 0 to 10,000 in 2 seconds, you can just really irritate them or piss them off.
Correct.
That is a sign that, listen, maybe this is not the type of relationship that I want to be in. Um, a lot of times it's the verbal. They might not physically abuse you,
Mm-hmm.
but words hurt.
Yeah, they do.
And words stay with you.
They stay.
Um, and so if they have, my parents used to say, if a man has no respect for his mom, 9 out of 10, he's not going to have respect
Respect
for
for you.
you.
That's correct.
And so, but if this person has no respect for women,
Mm-hmm.
because now it's not just their mom, it's women, or just no respect for anyone,
Mm-hmm.
that's a red flag. That's maybe this is not the relationship that I need to be in.
Correct.
Um, Control. If he has to put devices on your vehicles or on your
Mm.
cars because of the lack of trust, that's a red flag.
Correct.
Because now he has trust issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so, who's to say that you stopped to a friend's house and maybe you didn't tell him, or we like to say him, but I have to be real. Women can be abusers as well.
Correct.
So maybe if you didn't tell that person that you was going here and you made an innocent stop,
Mm-hmm.
nothing to it, but you have to fight when you get home because you was
Right.
there.
Right.
When you have to pick and choose whether or not, so we don't like to talk about spiritual abuse, but if they say you can't go to church, you have to choose me over your God,
Mm-hmm.
or you're in church too much, or I don't worship that God, I worship this one, so you need
Correct.
if you can't have peace to go and worship where you serve, that's abuse. So one thing you will learn about any form of abuse is control. So we have what we call a control wheel. And so if you Google it
Mm-hmm.
and you see that control wheel and you find yourself, yes,
I
you
printed it
find
out.
yourself in any of those
Yes.
situations,
Yes.
that is a reason to say, listen,
Definitely.
let's pump brakes.
Yeah.
You know, it's not meant to be.
Mm-mm.
And I will say, it don't always end there, because even afterwards you can go through the stalking and the different things like that, because that person feel like they lost power and control when you
Mm-hmm.
made up your mind,
Correct.
like, pump brakes, I can't do this
Correct.
because I value who I am.
Correct.
So and I will say to anyone, don't lose you
Mm-hmm.
trying to make this person happy.
Correct. Correct. I definitely agree with that. And also too, I would say from an outside standpoint, if you know someone that is dealing with this, try to not be so pushy or try not to be so you need to do this, you need to do that.
Yeah.
Come with a more calming I guess approach and be concerned because a lot of times if they feel like you're trying to control them or you're trying to tell them what they're doing is wrong, you're going to push them further and further away from the help that they need.
Yes.
So I think a lot of times that's why I say it's so important to research this, because if you know someone that's dealing with this, you need to know what to do and what not to do and the signs to look for that you can be a help to someone in a healthy way.
Yes.
Because a lot of times you'll lose someone in the midst of trying to help, and then you're back to square one on what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're already going through a lot at home, and then if I come to you and you're telling me what I should do, well, there's a whole list of reasons why people stay. Your abuser makes you feel that nobody even wants you around.
Correct.
And so therefore, if I go and confide in you as my friend and you're telling me, well, this is why you should leave, this is what, he's already told me that you really don't care.
Yeah.
So if I come to you and confiding in you and you're not listening, what I need at that moment is for you to just listen.
Correct.
Because when I go home, I don't have anyone that's going to listen to me.
No.
So what I will say to anyone, if you see your friend in that situation, sometimes you have to just take them out and say, hey, come go with me. Research. There's so many different events going on throughout the year. Come go with me so they can hear the information for themselves.
Right.
But if you tell them like, hey, I'm going to this domestic violence, oh, I'm not going through that.
Because I don't have that problem.
Yeah, I don't have that problem.
Yeah.
Or, he's not hitting me. It's just sometimes what he say. But those things are lingering on the inside.
Right.
And they cut deep.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is so true. And like I said, just like the person that needs the help needs the information, the person that's trying to help them needs the information as well. So it's all a team effort when doing this and trying to get someone help. So I know I heard you said something about, of course, women being nurturers and being very understanding. During that process when you were going through this situation, I'm pretty sure there were continuous patterns and cycles that you continuously went through that you could not unfortunately break on your own. So during that, what did it take for you to really decide, or what event may have happened that it was just too much, or it was just your breaking point? A lot of times situations happen and they say that was my way out. What did that take for you? Because cycles, no matter what cycles they are, they're sometimes hard to break. What they say, it takes 21 days to break a habit. So in situations like that, it is of course more in tune and more dangerous in because it's your life that's involved with this. Exactly. How would you give advice with that?
So domestic violence, they say it takes 7 times before you actually leave your abuser. Okay. You may leave, you'll go back, you'll leave, you'll go back. Even in my instance, after my abuser beat my son out of me, I went back. And I didn't go back because of love. I went back because here I have my parents, 2-parent home. Everything's well. I have my older sister with a really good marriage. And here I am with a marriage falling apart. So I went through like the shame. I went through the guilt. I've had them arrested. I will go, the phone calls you get, like, I didn't mean it. You made me do it.
Correct. Correct.
And so I began to think it had to be something in me. Like everybody else has this. What is it about me that my marriage is falling apart? So I felt guilty. I felt ashamed. And yet I had a child. I wanted my daughter to have what I had.
Correct.
I wanted her to have the 2-parent home. I wanted, it's going to get better.
Yeah.
And each time it got worse.
Mm.
And so, even when he beat my son out of me, if you would have came to the room, right, you would have thought that he was comforting me and all of that. But he was saying to me that if you tell them what happened, I'm going to say that you done this.
Wow.
It's going to get you in trouble.
So it's kind of like reverse psychology.
Yes. And so at this moment, like, my mind is everywhere. I done lost my child. I don't have you. And, all I got is everybody. Oh, he's so concerned. Mm-hmm. You don't know what he's saying to me.
Correct.
It looks like he's comforting me. It looks like he cared, but he don't. Mm-hmm. He's covering himself to keep from going to jail.
Correct.
And so even afterwards, I didn't want to go back home because, I have this home, and you go back to your parents' house, you got these rules, and, I have a child. So I kind of still wanted my freedom. Like, okay, it got to get better from here because I kept you from going to jail. So it got to get better. And the last time I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I have to protect me and my child now because not only did you beat me, but you spanked her because of your frustration for me. And so you beat one out of me. You're not going to take this one.
Correct.
And he would threaten me a lot of taking my children from me. And if you know me, you know I love.
Yes.
I love my children.
Yes.
And so just someone threatening to take it. But it took this one officer. I seen him at Department of Social Services. And I was kind of like telling him. And he said, he can't take those kids from me. So what do you mean? And so that day it gave me the willpower to just say, I cannot do this anymore. Because after I realized he couldn't take my children, I'm free to go. But I done what I needed to do. And even when he went to social services, like, he thought that he was signing papers to take the children away from me, but they had him signing papers for child support.
Wow.
So when they called me and told me this, I'm like, no, because he's going to take. So I was afraid, and so it took a lot. We always talk, like, in our homes, what goes on in our homes, stay in our home.
Correct.
I will tell any parent, do not ever tell your children that, because your children could be the one that saved you. Because if they see it, they can say something.
Correct.
That can get you the help that you need.
Right.
Because what people don't realize is, even though your children directly, and they may not be going through it, it affects them.
Correct.
It affects their health. It affects their mental ability. It affects them altogether. So no matter what you think that you're hiding, you're not hiding it.
Right. Correct. And I think what you just said with the kids, and honesty is definitely the key. They say the truth hurts in some situations, and facing your reality is even more painful, because you'll really tune in and say, how in the world did I get in this situation? You'll start seeing yourself not as yourself, appearance and all of that stuff. So it is very important to first be honest with self, and then be honest with others.
Exactly.
Because in that way, you're helping yourself, but also you're allowing someone else to help you with your truth as well.
Yes.
So I think that's very important. And that's good to know that you were able to get some type of advice from a person that actually works in the justice system. So they actually knew what they were talking about. It wasn't hearsay or anything like that. And that probably what it was that took for you to say, okay, he know what he's talking about. So this is my cue to get out of here.
Yeah.
So once you got out of that situation, what form of healing started for you, or what ways was it that you never looked back again and was able to really move on and start living your life?
So one thing you will learn is when you go through a form of abuse, you just get a different partner. But if you have not healed, you attract the same type of person.
Correct.
And so with me, I attracted the same type of men. It was just different abuse with different men, right? But I never healed. Um, I put on a front for people. I would smile, you wouldn't know, but I was hurt. And so I was angry. And so I found myself lashing out at others. And even being in those types of relationships, it just took me to say, like, so then I built this wall. I remember building this wall. I'm just tired of being hurt. I'm tired of different ones around my children. Like, I looked at me, but I was still feeling. And it took until my daughter went to college. And when she came home, she was pregnant. I was angry all over again. But when I went with her to an ultrasound and they told me it was a boy, I felt like God was giving me back what he took, right?
Wow.
And so I felt like God was giving me this second chance of loving a male, because at this point, I dealt with them to satisfy me, but I hated them at the same time.
Correct.
But from the day that I heard my grandson's heartbeat, I had to heal because I didn't want to be lashing out at him.
Correct.
Because of all that I went through. So from the day that I heard his heartbeat, I started seeking therapy. And I fired a lot of them. Seeking therapy, you have to seek, just like going to a heart doctor. You're not going to go to an eye doctor to fix your heart, right?
Nope.
Even with therapy, you have to make sure it's a trauma informed therapy that deals with domestic violence.
Correct.
Because it could be trauma informed because of other traumas in your life, but you have to really get down to the underlying issue.
Correct.
And so I felt like once I went in and filled out the paper, they should be able to fix my problem, right?
No.
So they wasn't. And so now I'm paying all these co-payments in, and I'm like, y'all are not helping. I said, I look at them, they look at me, they ask me a few questions, but it's like it's on the paper.
Correct.
I really didn't know how to really get my healing. And it took one. I just made up my mind. I was like, ever doing therapy? I done fired like all of these therapists and nobody's helping. And it took the therapist, the last therapist. She came up and she came to the little desk. I just seen her counterpartner. And she was like, come see me Monday. I was like, nope.
Wow.
Like, nope.
Right.
Like, all you doing is taking my money. I don't have time.
Right.
But she said, listen, you fuss every time you come in here. And I was rude. I was in phase. So I was cursing. Like, I was fussing and cursing. And so she said, this is what I need you to do. When you come on Monday, it's going to be free. Number one.
Wow.
I was like, free? She was like, yeah. I said, okay, we might do something.
Right.
So then she said, but I'm going to give you homework. And she said, what is it that you want? I said, I don't know. I don't want to keep feeling like this. Like I'm angry. I'm mad with everybody.
Correct.
Like my world is just falling apart. I said, then I got to go out and just smile and just act like everything is okay. She said, so I want you to write down what it is that you want and what can you do to get there? She said, we'll talk about that on Monday. And why are you angry? Like, what has happened
Correct.
that has caused you to be so angry? She was the first person to ever hold me accountable for my healing.
Wow.
Because what she said to me is, what I see is a little girl that wants healing, but not do the work. And so I got now somebody who wants to hold me accountable. And it's easy to say that you want healing, but are you willing to do the work?
So true. We definitely talked about that in episode 1 because you have to work your healing. It's not just you sitting in a session and receiving. You have to do some homework, like you said, and apply this on your life outside of therapy. That's the only way that you will continue to move forward. And I think with her holding you accountable and being firm with you, and most importantly, showing you, okay, this is how you're going to get from point A to point B, guiding you as well. That is what probably like saved your life and was like a no-brainer. Like, I'm going to continue to come here because I'm seeing the work as well inside of me. So that's good.
It took a while, but like with her guidance, with her just making me really see who I was, because I lost me. I lost me trying to satisfy everybody else. And then as a mother, I was losing me within my children because I wanted to make them happy, but yet, I was hurting.
Correct.
And then my son date of birth and date of death is December the 23rd.
Wow.
2 days before Christmas. So I had to put on this front every year.
Wow.
Around Christmas time, like I was happy, but on the inside, I was tore up. You wouldn't know because I participated, but when I would get home, I couldn't sleep. I would cry. I didn't want people to see that because I didn't want them to think that I was weak.
Correct. And being vulnerable. And sitting in what you're feeling is like one of the most important things they're going to tell you in therapy, because you don't want to deal with your feelings. You don't want to deal with that deep-rooted pain that you've been taking along since however long you've been dealing with this. So that is the number one thing I want viewers to know is when you are seeking therapy, you have to definitely make up your mind that this is something that you want to do, that you're going to follow through, but that it's also going to be not so happy times neither. You're going to be dealing with some issues that you put in the back burner and kept going, some things you ignored, and some things that about yourself that you don't like as well. So I think that is like one of the main things you have to realize when seeking therapy, but also know that there is recovery after therapy. There is a sunshine after therapy. And don't beat yourself up if it takes you a while with therapy, because people are different in different situations that they go through. Whereas me, it may not take but a couple months, but you, it may take 2 years. So you can't compare yourself to people's situations because everyone is different. And just know that as long as you're continuously seeing a progress, as long at the end of the day, you and your therapist are able to agree and disagree, but also be able to see change and the effectiveness of it, that is what's most important to therapy.
And even with therapy and with healing, one thing that you will find if you have a really, really good therapist, as you're progressing, they're going to reach out on your behalf to others that
Mm.
could really help you as well.
Correct.
Because you might be healed from this one issue, but it could be another underlying issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, for me, I couldn't address all of my issues at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, but once you build that relationship with your therapist
Mm-hmm.
and you're able to lay it out,
Correct.
you're able to see like what has really happened.
Yeah.
And like now, going back to my therapist, and it's like, girl, now I'm able to help other people, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I just remember like close to our last session, I told her, I said, I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I know I don't have to come as much.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a progress.
Yeah.
And I said, but I don't want anybody else to go through what I went through. She said, so what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. And she said, of course, she loves homework. And so she gave me more homework.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of extended our sessions, but it made me really see what it was that I wanted to do. And so that's where um, I was able to open an organization.
Wow.
So I can help others.
Wow. So
Yes.
that is the beauty of all of this, with all that you went through, not seeing a way out, not seeing any solution in the beginning, to going through your situation, unfortunately going through cycles that seemed that they were no ending to them, to getting a resource that was able to give you some confirming information that you didn't know, to finally deciding that you were tired of being tired and wanted more for yourself and your kids, to getting the help and therapy you needed, to being able to heal and then help others. That is amazing.
Yes.
Wow. So what is it that you started with as far as your business that is where it is to now?
Okay. So one of the things, because I lost my son through domestic violence, right? So if my son had lived, right, I began to do a lot of research. What if my son had gotten into an abusive relationship? Where could he turn?
Correct.
So there's nowhere for men that are going through abuse.
Correct.
Right? And so when I started the organization, I wanted to have an outlet where men could come.
Okay.
And so I didn't want to advocate just for women, because I also needed my son to have a voice. So we advocate for men, women, and children.
Okay.
And the reason being, and as I stated before, your children see a lot of things that you go through.
Correct.
No matter how, you try to keep it a secret.
Right.
And so we need to educate them. Because if all they see is the abuse in the home, they think it's okay.
Correct.
So it becomes a generational curse.
Correct.
And so with the organization, what we do is we mentor, we tutor, we take these children, in the worst of the worst, and we let them know, like, that's not right. We have real conversations with them on their level. Okay. The reason I chose, of course, the men is because, one, if my son was living, he wouldn't have anywhere to go. But in the good old USA, the man is technically the head of the household, right?
Correct.
So if you train him, it will trickle down into the family.
Correct.
And so if the male is trained, like, no matter what these behaviors are that you've seen, those was wrong. Let's get outside of this box.
Correct.
And outside of the box. So if you train him, it's going to trickle down. He's going to talk to his wife or his girlfriend, whoever, this is not right. We need to handle this different. whatever.
Wow, that's good.
But it keeps the abuse, because instead of the nonverbal, or the verbal lashing out, the verbal abuse, we can't talk right now because we're angry. Let's get it together, and let's come back to the table, right?
Wow.
So if you train them, you gotta untrain to retrain.
That's great.
But when you do that, if it trickle down, now he's gonna that's how he's gonna train his children. Him and his wife could be on the same accord, and so they could train the children together.
Wow.
And so um, you have to give them an outlet where they're not their ego is not pushed to the side, or you a man, why do you feel this way?
Right.
Boys are told you can't show your emotions. No, they can.
Yeah.
It's okay to show your emotions.
It is.
And that's why you have to retrain them. Because if you got a man that was told you can't show your emotions, 9 out of 10, he's not going to really know how to love you. Because even when he wants to love you with everything, I can't show my emotions. Or when things happen, I can't show my emotions. So you have to retrain.
You're right.
And so that's what I love about what I do. Doing the conferences and bringing the awareness, and just coming and doing this, just letting somebody know it's okay.
Yeah.
Men, it's okay to express your feelings. Women, it's okay but it's how you do it.
It's how you do it.
It shouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
The person that you say that you love.
Because love doesn't hurt.
Love doesn't hurt.
It's not supposed to anyway.
That's right.
Yeah. So that is true. I don't know if I caught it, but what is the name of your business for our viewers to see?
So our organization is called Survivors with a Testimony.
Okay.
When I first started out, it was breaking the silence on domestic violence. And the reason it was that is because God had to break what was on the inside of me. And so once I began to heal, he changed, And so it's Survivors with a Testimony. We have survivors, male, women, and children, that actually tell their stories. And you give them an opportunity to let them know that you're not in this alone.
Correct.
My life is my story. I'm able to tell my story. It could be my family, a friend, or someone telling my story, but I'm able to tell my own story.
Correct. Wow. And that is so good, because a lot of times you only focus on the woman because you think, oh, they're the only ones that's suffering in the situation. But that is good that you cover everyone, the entire family, down to mom, dad, and kids, because you'd be surprised what men are dealing with domestic violence, and especially kids today with just early on relationships, really not knowing what the full meaning is, not knowing who you are, and then just because he said this, I'm just gonna go along with it.
Right.
And unfortunately, you're 20 years down the road and still dealing with, unfortunately, something that you were not able to break and heal from. So that is very good that you allow everyone to be on in this, and allow testimonies to be told. And they say you overcome by your testimonies.
That's right.
So that's good that whoever that is in on those conferences and different places and people that you allow to tell their testimony, someone can hear that and know that they're not alone, and that I am them in some way, and that there's help for me.
That's right.
So that is awesome, Vernita, that you are doing that. How long have you been up and running with this business?
8 years.
8 years. Wow. Yes. Well, I am so honored to have you on the podcast and give your testimony, give us what domestic violence means to you in your special way, and also let us know about your business adventure, and let someone know out there that recovery is possible, and that not only can you seek help, but you can help others in the process.
Exactly.
So you didn't even know how your testimony was going to help someone one day overcome theirs. Right. So that is so good, and it's so good to share what you've been through and
Mhm.
how it can help someone.
Yes.
Because anything that's closed in, that's not shared, no one will be able to know. So that's
Exactly.
very good that you were able to do that. And I do want to let people know that there is a domestic hotline out there for someone that is suffering from domestic violence and you know someone that may need some help. Please feel free to call 800-799-7233.
Mhm.
Also, are there any links or anywhere that people can find your
Mhm.
business information and may want to reach out or get some information on?
Sure. So we're on all social media. Um, it is SWAT Inc. 2020 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Um, they can also go to our website. It's www.survivorswiththetestimony.org.
Okay.
Um, even if it's in Indiana, we do also have a location in Indiana.
Oh, wow.
So we serve North Carolina and Indiana right now.
Okay.
And so if they're in Indiana in that area, they could do SWAT Indiana, um, and it on all social media.
Okay.
But our website is just one.
Just one. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
And if they find themselves in that situation and they don't want to call the national hotline, they can also text the hotline, or they could go to our website and they can text us.
Okay.
And we will redirect them. We will help them with resources. We will get them in the right direction.
Great. Well, that is good that there are a lot of different sources that you out there or someone that you know can get in contact with. I do believe if you were to reach out to either one, you'll get the proper help. But I will say, and I will refer that anyone that wants to look into Vernita's business, please do so. I feel that she will have some amazing information for you, some testimonies that will definitely encourage and help you overcome, but most importantly, show you that there is life after domestic violence and that it is there as help, but also to help someone else. So I hope that we have said something on tonight that has given you some more insight on what domestic violence is. Most importantly, resources that will help you or someone that you may know. But most importantly, just knowledge on there's more things more than physical and sexual abuse. There's more different realms of domestic violence. And if you are suffering from this, please get the help that you need. There's help out there, and there is someone out there that I know that will be God sent that will be willing to help you. If it's not me or Vernita, call that hotline or someone that you can confide in. So, as always, I thank you so much for tuning in to Keep It Connected. I hope that we have said something that has given you some type of insight or enlightened that you will come on back and watch us for another episode. As always, be sure to keep those connections. And if they are positive ones, if there are ones that you encounter, continue to keep those connections. I want to thank you so much. And as always, your favorite girl is tuning out. And thank you, Renita, for tuning in. And we'll see you soon. Bye.